A very good afternoon to all of you. So thanks for joining for this session. So this is going to be the first technical session of the day in this hall. Uh, this the topic for the session is catalyzing e-commerce uh, through corporate social responsibility, empowering micro entrepreneurs. So basically, the topic says it all. Uh, and this is no brainer that e-commerce is the present and going to be the future, but the question is who is benefiting out of it, and how do we empower enable our small and marginal artisans and small entrepreneurs to benefit from this. To discuss this, we have a very eminent panel with us, moderated by Mr. Siva Devi Reddy. May I welcome you on the stage, please. Siva is the founder of GoCoop.com, and you may read his bio on the app. And he is kind of a pioneer in this field, actually. So before him, there was no real e-commerce benefiting the artisans community. So big round of applause for Siva again. Thank you. And joining him, I'll just take a minute. Joining him are Ms. Simi Suri, uh, Associate Director at HCL Foundation. May I welcome you, Simi, on the stage, please. So HCL Foundation has an e-heart program, which is also aimed at benefiting thousands of artisans on e-commerce platforms. And with this panel is Sumita Ghosh. Again, another pioneer in this field, leader of Rangasutra, an artisan-led organization. And with them is Mr. Sumit Singh, advisor to strategy cooperation at National Cooperative Union of India. May I welcome Sumit as well. Mr. Sumit. He was just here. Sumit. Yeah, he will be joining, but so we'll start the session. Now I hand it over to Siva. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks you, Suvendu, for the warm welcome, and a very good morning to all of you. It's a little cold, at least for people coming from down south. It's a little cold in Delhi. It's great to be here. So I've spent a long time in e-commerce, not just with GoCoop, but my first job in the Bay Area in San Francisco was in building a e-commerce platform for the semiconductor industry. This was back in 2000. So yeah, having seen e-commerce evolve since the dot-com days in the Bay Area to what it is today in India, it's been a long journey. And happy to share this panel with such distinguished panelists. Simiji, Sumitaji, had a chance to work closely with them, and Sumitji will be joining us shortly. So to make this more interesting and engaging, right, rather than talking about ourselves and giving a long introductions, let me just start with a few questions, right? So why is this session so relevant for all of us, and especially people in this room who are talking about livelihoods, who are concerned about driving livelihoods for producer communities, or in general driving livelihoods across India? Why is this session so relevant? So let me start with two small questions. First question: is anyone in this room who has not bought anything online so far, who has not used e-commerce? Have all of you used e-commerce so far? Okay, so the answer is resounding yes. Now, any idea what is the size of e-commerce market in India? $1 billion, $2 billion. What could be the size of e-commerce market in India? Yeah, you can search it online as well. But yeah, any guess what could be the size of e-commerce market in India? Okay, yeah, it's over $70 billion right now, and we'll talk about it more in detail over the session. But let me just set the context for this session with a few important pointers, maybe 5 important pointers, right? The first thing is India has seen a phenomenal growth in e-commerce in the last decade. right? Starting from, um, I still remember, I don't know if you guys still remember those pictures of Flipkart starting from a 2-bedroom apartment in Bangalore, to what it is today, right? And then, people buying, starting to buy books online, to now people buying like cars online, people buy everything online, right? I mean, you can actually order your groceries sitting at your home, and it gets delivered in what, 10 minutes? Blinkit. Anybody does Blinkit? Yep. we all live on we all live on Blinkit. Okay, so not so sustainable, but yeah, it's still a very, very life saving mechanism, right? So yeah, I think e-commerce has become omnipresent, right? It's become very pervasive in our lives, especially in most developed countries and also in India. E-commerce has been growing quite significantly. It's at $70 billion in terms of market size, and there are many factors which have helped in this growth, right? Um, can we name some of the factors? Again, I want this to be engaging, right? What are the factors? Now, all of you are here to gain something from this session, right? It's a technical session. So let's do a Q&A. What are the factors driving growth in India, of e-commerce in India? Perfect. That's the most important one, right? The whole Digital India initiatives, digital adoption. We have more than 800 million, online users in India. That's a big number, right? 800 million. We are the second largest user base, digital user base in the world. So that's a big thing. What else is driving e-commerce in India? Distribution networks. We have logistics now. Growing middle class, right? Disposable income. So middle class has been growing quite significantly. We are about 20% middle class. We are expected to be close to 40% of middle class by 2030. So that is growing. Anything else which is driving growth of e-commerce? Anything to do with rural, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities? So obviously there's growth of e-commerce also in rural part of India, right? It's not restricted to just tier 1 cities. So we see a significant growth of e-commerce, and in fact, a lot of new growth in e-commerce is coming from tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4 cities, right? So the rural market is also driving e-commerce today, not just the urban markets. So while all these are good numbers, India has seen significant growth, but in terms of percentages, India is only seeing 7% of its retail market being served through e-commerce. Only 7%. It was actually 5-6%. Now I think it's 7% of retail market is being served through e-commerce. Now this percentage is very significant in other countries like US. In US, the percentage of e-commerce in retail is almost 60%. In fact, it's I think a little over 60% right now. So in many developed countries, we are at 6-7%. In developed countries, in some of the other countries, in Western European countries, e-commerce is as high as 60%. So there's a huge opportunity for growth in e-commerce sector. And this is, why there are a lot of factors like growing middle class, internet penetration, the platforms and payment infrastructure that India has built, right? India's payment infrastructure is probably world class, right? What we have compared to the payment infrastructure even in countries like US. I've spent a lot of time in US. US infrastructure, payment infrastructure is actually third world compared to the payment infrastructure we have in India. So we have made huge progress on technology, on infrastructure, which is creating a very good fertile ground for growing e-commerce. And that is why e-commerce is estimated to be $325 billion by 2030. It's expected to grow at 22% annually. The cumulated annual growth rate, CAGR, is 22% for e-commerce over the next 6-7 years. So this is the opportunity. And what are the challenges, right? So there are a lot of challenges while we talk about e-commerce. So we'll talk through that in the session. We'll understand that from our eminent panelists. But that's the context for this session. It's very relevant for all of us. And I want all of you to, make this engaging, and let's get the best out of, the eminent panel that we have here today. So with that, let me, request our panelists, Simi ji, Sumita ji, and Sumit ji, to answer basically one question, but also talk about their work, what they have been doing, and how you see or why you see e-commerce is relevant for India. Why is e-commerce very relevant for creating sustainable livelihoods? So let me start with you, Simiji.
Thank you. I think it's afternoon now. I can say good afternoon. So, good afternoon, everybody, and really feel honored to be among all of you and share our views. If you ask me, I'll go back to little history because we have to see where we are coming from. So earlier it was more artisans doing some work, and I remember when I joined HCL, I'm going to I've spent 17 years. I'll be completing in another 1 or 2 months. So what I want to share is that time we used to invite artisans and ask them to display their work, and we used to call it bazaar. There is a NGO bazaar in the corporate, and please, we used to encourage our employees to come and buy. But again, at the end, I used to get a lot of mails from my employees. Ma'am, it was so expensive. Ma'am, I can get this outside for, the candle here was for 10 rupees, which I can get it for 5 rupees outside. And those kind of questions used to really haunt me. I used to just think, where are they coming from? Why don't they understand? Then you realize that there is a gap. Somewhere they don't understand where the artisan is coming from. And then, as we all know, need not say that, we are such a diverse country, and we are with from food to embroidery to every state has something to offer. So that is where, and we cannot go everywhere and get it. That is where my other colleagues are going to speak about it, but I'm just going to talk corporate from the corporate point of view. So then we realized over the period, yes, the law also came in place, and we realized how to help these marginalized people, I mean artisans who really come from marginalized strata, to help them and overcome and at least some livelihood to be added in their life. So when they migrate to cities, metropolitan cities like Delhi, Bombay, Chennai, wherever, Bangalore, they realize that life is going to change. But when there they come, they have bigger issues to face, and that is where the further the crunch comes. And if you train them on certain things, and then you have to find the market for them, that is where corporate has to play a very important role to handhold them for some time, and then gradually how we convert them into entrepreneurs, that we'll talk later. I hope I have answered your question.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. I think the creating market for people from rural parts of the country, right? I think who are unknown. I think that's the key thing that Simiji explained. Uh, Let me just move on to Sumita ji. I think you've been doing some phenomenal work with Rangsutra over 18 years now. It's one of the case studies for developing a producer-based non-farm enterprise. Sumita ji, why don't you share a little bit about Rangsutra, about yourself, and also about what your experience has been with digital or e-commerce?
Thank you. This is audible, right? Yeah. So actually, it's more than 18 years. Rang Sutra is 18 years, but the foundations of Rang Sutra were laid in a not-for-profit organization in a place called Loon Karansar, Bikaner, with the Urmul Trust. And where Urmul was the dairy, like Amul, you have Urmul there with the Rajasthan Milk Union Limited. Ranu is sitting here and smiling. So the Urmul dairy was very profitable in the mid 80s. I'm talking about the mid 80s. They were so profitable that union, that milk cooperative, they were supplying milk to all of North India, making cheese, making other kind of products and doing really well. When they realized that, they had veterinary doctors for their cows, but there were no doctors for their women members to go in case they had a difficult delivery. So they set up a Urmul Trust in which, I went there along with my husband and many others, Minu, at that point of time. And we started working on rural health, actually.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. And then in the second year of working, that area faced the worst drought of the century, 1987. And the dairy did not, it was the first social enterprise. The dairy gave us the money to start. It was corporate social responsibility through a cooperative. So they gave 14 lakhs to set up Urmul Health Trust. So of course, all the cows died, half the cows died, and in the drought, and they really couldn't, continue with giving those funds. And that's when we decided that we really had to figure out ways to be self-sufficient. We found that women there knew how to spin wool. Bikaner is the largest wool market in Asia. Women knew how to spin wool, so we started working with wool. What I'm wearing is actually a produce from there, and then gradually that's how the whole non-farm sector started. After running that pretty successfully for some years, uh, what we realized with, as you said, 1991 when our country opened up, uh, people like us in the middle class, we really benefited. Our options were open, whether it was MNCs we could work with, whether it was the whole tech industry where a lot of people could get jobs. But people in rural areas were still struggling to just stay in one place, forget moving up the ladder, like all of us aspire to do. So that's when we decided, okay, let's get together and form a company, a for profit organization, building upon strengths of the rural sector. Yes, they may be economically poor because they've not had access to the kind of resources that we in urban India have. And so we set up Rang Sutra. So Rang Sutra is owned today by 2,500 artisans from Western Rajasthan mostly, and from UP as well as some others. And when we first started, the artisans told us that we need to have shops. But we soon realized that to open stores, you needed a lot of money. So we couldn't do that. We ventured into a B2B space. But we realized very, later on, and our whole effort at B2C is pretty recent. But within that, also, since we can't open stores again because of the money that it requires, we really have found over the years, especially after COVID, that the e-commerce market offers real potential, and we are still navigating that. I still, I get very alarmed when people ask me, what's your burn rate? So I have nothing to burn. I mean, I can't afford to burn anything. So we've grown very slowly, but very slowly. But the best thing in that is, what you said, people, uh, they like the story behind the product. So they are not the people who are buying our products online. They are not saying, oh, okay, why is this costing 2,000 rupees and why not, 200 or 500? They know, they can see. So social media in that sense has enabled us to tell the story, and we feel positive about it. Going ahead.
Thank you, Sumitaji. So definitely, I think the power of telling your story, right? It's not just about sales, but telling the story about what you stand for, what your organization is. I mean, this you cannot find a better medium than social media, right? And it can be done very, very effectively without spending too much money if you have that creativity and you have the people who can do it. Great. Thanks, Sumitaji. And very inspiring story, Sumitaji. Thanks for sharing that. Sumitji, I think you're coming from NCUI. You're an advisor to NCUI. Also, you lead the entrepreneurship and innovation cell, incubation cell at NCUI for cooperatives, cooperative enterprises. So, tell us your experience with digital. Why you think e-commerce is very relevant. You're working with a very different set of organizations, right? Cooperatives, which are also not so widely understood. I mean, at least from a general, consumer perspective. So, how is this more relevant, and what do you think is the reason for driving e-commerce?
Thank you so much, Shivaji. And I was listening to the story which came from Marwar very keenly because I was director of local self government in Jodhpur for 4 years. And every time I used to go to Jaisalmer, I used to buy something from your follow the store, Urmul store. There's this thing, I've seen this thing. And also, if I talk about the cooperative, this thing, you talked about the dairy cooperatives. If you see, even now, the old milk booths in Delhi, DMS, Delhi Milk Scheme. So Delhi milk Scheme was basically all these milk trucks coming from Bikaner and that area to supply milk to Delhi. So that was the scheme. So it has been a very interesting journey of how cooperatives in arid zones in Rajasthan and Gujarat, they have transformed the whole lifestyle of people there. So coming back to NCUI, I am currently advisor strategy and cooperation at National Cooperative Union of India. And National Cooperative Union of India, some of you may be aware, this is the apex organization of all cooperative societies. Any cooperative society, any kind of cooperative society that you hear about, cooperative banks, labor cooperatives, dairy cooperatives. So, and we have got 100% coverage across India. So as of now, there are 8.5 lakh cooperative societies in India. And because Shivaji was telling a lot of statistics about e-commerce business globally, so I'll also put this in that context. So currently there are around 3 million cooperatives across the world. And out of that, there are close to 1 million cooperatives only in India. So that tells the kind of impact India has in the cooperative sector. And generally speaking, we are governed by 7 principles, which are again, controlled and over guided by International Cooperative Alliance. And the two key principles which I always refer to or talk about is one is the cooperation among cooperatives. So we believe less in competition and more in cooperation. So we want that we should grow, but at the same time other people should also grow together. And another principle is concern for community. So we believe in enterprise oriented, enterprise centric welfare. So it's not charity based welfare where we are just giving blanket, we are just giving something, and we have that donor donee relationship between the government or the people or any entity and the people. But we are trying to alleviate poverty. We are trying to bring upgrade the quality of life people by making them a very key stakeholder in the whole project. So cooperatives are very decentralized phenomenon. We are, as of now, we have got close to 1 lakh farming cooperatives, 1.8 lakh dairy cooperatives, around 30,000 women cooperatives. Then there are housing cooperatives everywhere. If you go to Mumbai, there are cooperative housing societies in these areas of Andheri, Bandra, Borivali, like that. So then you must be seeing all these cooperative banks. So we have close to 6 lakh crore of rupee which is parked in cooperative banks even now, even in this dismal situation that we have in cooperative banking sector. So there's a lot that can be said about cooperative sector, but as of now, especially in the last 20 years, when this whole globalization happened and when this era of technology and all came, cooperatives kind of started ceding space to other entities because they could not cope up, they could not adopt to new technologies, they could not globalize, in that sense. So we at NCUI, we have, as Shivaji told, I'm heading this Center for Entrepreneurship Development and Cooperation. Briefly speaking, in the last 3 years, we have collaborated with organizations like SCL Foundation, Simiji is here, and Art of Living, Ministry of Skill Development, and then Pixera Global. It's a global organization for empowering artisans, and so there are IITs, Unnat Bharat Abhiyan. So all this is being done just with an overview with an objective to build this cooperative, social, and corporate partnerships for bringing that change. So the importance of e-commerce, as Sumita ji was saying, after COVID, it has accelerated to very different level. Because I was in a very small village of Chhattisgarh immediately after the first phase of COVID, and I could see that there are these small vehicles coming from town to the village to supply this basic need items every week or twice a week, like that. So that people have realized that no, for everything now, we don't need to depend on the other big city. We can get access to those things at our doorstep as well. And one more important thing is that when this whole e-commerce started, it was more about the production happening at a very far off place, and all these people were just buyers. And we all sitting here, starting from GoCop to SCL Foundations, all this initiative, or Subhita ji is what she's doing, or what we are trying to do. We are now trying to make these buyers, in the village. We want to make them sellers, and then we want to make them entrepreneurs. So we see them as a very key stakeholder. We need to utilize their skills, their expertise, their experience, and the traditional ingenuity that they have. So, for example, if I talk about the desert Rajasthan, it's like a misnomer. It's desert, but we have the 7 colors of Rajasthan that we talk about, and one of that is Rangilo Rajasthan. So, and Rang Sutra also, it comes from there. So there's a lot of this local, original beauty, that can come on come on forth, that can come on screen, and that can be very demanding for other regions, for other countries as well. So that's what we are trying to do, and we have started this NCI Heart e-commerce portal 1 year back. It was launched by Honorable Prime Minister. Now we are trying to bring on board all these small cooperative societies. We are trying to provide all handholding support. So we can discuss in detail. There is a heart also. We have put up a stall here. So I'll be brief. I'll again we should go back to Sivaji for the next this thing.
Thank you, Sumit. This was good inputs. So again, cooperatives being not so widely represented and being slightly more disadvantaged. I mean, being not so driven by technology. I think e-commerce and in general technology can help them participate in markets, and especially in globalization, right? I think they can play a bigger role. These technologies can play a bigger role. Thanks, Sumitji, for sharing that. Now, let me share a little bit about GoCoop, what we have done, what has been our journey. So I've been there, done that, and especially within the livelihood space or the craft sector, I've done this for the last 12, 13 years. So let me share a little bit about what we have done. So we started our journey in late 2011 with a vision that, the technology can drive social change. That was like my strong belief back then, and it's also a strong belief even today. And what I saw as an opportunity was, these were the days where, having come from US, we saw the emergence of e-commerce there. We started seeing the emergence of social media in a big way. I think Facebook was at 500 billion people, I think at that, 500 million users at that time. And India was still very nascent in e-commerce, right? So Amazon was not there in India at that time. And as far as I remember, Flipkart was still running in a 2-bedroom apartment at that time. So this was in 2011. So what the vision was for GoCoop is, can we, connect Indian producer community to better markets through an online platform? That was the vision, right? I mean, that was the broad vision. And the problem we were trying to solve is, most of the producer communities, have good production capabilities, have very unique products. Like I think as even Sumitji mentioned, right, there are such unique local products, right, in different parts of the country. But how many people are aware of them, right? How many people have access to these products? So we wanted to create a platform through which we can connect these local communities onto an online platform, and through the online platform, connect them to market. That was the broad idea. But yeah, so when we started doing this, when we went through this journey, right, I think the first thing that we realized is building the platform itself back in the day was not that difficult, at least because since we came from technology background, it was not too difficult. But when we talked about e-commerce, when we went to craft clusters and we started talking to e-commerce, and we were very focused on cooperatives when we started, right? We mainly wanted to work with producer cooperatives, artisan cooperatives. Now, for someone who has never seen a computer before, even today, right? For someone who has never seen a computer before, asking them to come online is a huge challenge. Even now, that problem exists for eHearth of HCL, that problem exists for NCU Hearth as well. So 10 years ago, it was much more difficult. So after 2 years of effort, after traveling to almost 20 clusters, we could get roughly around 30 or 40 artisan groups to come online. It took us 2 years to do that. So a little fast forward, once we launched the platform in 2014, we started seeing a lot of demand for these products. Surprisingly, not only from domestic consumers, but we started seeing a lot of demand for these products from international consumers. Basically consumers, NRIs living outside India. Let me give an example. So I stay I come from Hyderabad, I come from Telangana, right? So at that time it was a combined state, Andhra Pradesh, right? So, and Pochampalli saris are very famous, right? Pochampalli is a very well-known cluster. A lot of people like to wear these Pochampalli fabrics and saris. Now, if you want to buy these products from US at that point of time, there was no option. We had very few options, and GoCoop was one of those few options through which you can buy these authentic products. So we started this journey. I mean, a lot of consumers appreciated the initiative. Cooperatives also, though very reluctant initially, started seeing the value. It took us a lot of effort to train these organizations, right? each organization had to be handholded for a minimum of 6 months. So just to tell you practically, right, how difficult it is. It's not about creating a website. The website was the easiest part, at least for us. But the difficult part was making it work, making the operations work. How do you pack? How do you ship? If there's an international order, how do you handle it? If there is a return, how do you handle it? Right? All the returns, all the payments, month at the end of the month, how do you settle the payments? Right, for the artisans. So all these operations, handholding, it was quite challenging, but that is what the biggest learning for us was. That building this infrastructure in the back, building this kind of service in the back end is equally important. Building that kind of quality in the product, because a customer who's buying this product, let's say from San Francisco, he would be very disappointed, right? If you get a product which has a stain, or if there is a defective product reaching him, right? After putting the trust on a platform, after putting the trust on an artisan group. So building that kind of quality also was a big challenge for us. It took us years to make that happen. But yeah, if somebody asks me to explain, right, what is the power of this platform, what is the power of this model? The power is simple, right? From a tribal village in Orissa, an artisan group can today sell their products to a consumer in San Francisco, right? And they're doing it seamlessly and for many years, right? It sounds very unreal even today, right? In 2024, I mean, we're almost in 2025, but we were able to do this in 2014, 15 onwards, right? We've actually done a lot of work in this space. So that's the story. And there's a lot of learnings on this. It's a journey. It's not about creating a website. It's not about creating your Instagram account or Facebook account. Those are the easiest things. The difficult part is to make the operations work, to make sure quality is there, to make sure you are able to handle payments, handle returns from customers successfully, right? It's a lot of work involved in making e-commerce work for especially sectors like handloom and handicraft. Great. So that has been a quick overview of our story. I wanted to share this as well so that you can benefit from a little bit from this. But now let me move on to the second question to the panelist. So from our own experiences, what have been the challenges of e-commerce, right? We know e-commerce has potential. We have seen the good side of e-commerce as well. But what are the challenges? Maybe Simiji, if you can share some experience from HCL Ehat.
As I shared in the beginning, these migrant, population, when the people come to the cities like this, and for them, it's like it's a stark difference for them, from living to getting their livelihood for like your daily meal also. Let me just start from that kind of just you can visualize how it is now, bringing them to get into something like this, because as already shared with by my other panelists, that they do have some creativity or some art in them. Now to hone those skills, it is not so easy. It is their behavioral change. It is, bringing them even to the center, making them do something like this. It's the way I think already Seva has shared. It's a lot of work, but when they start seeing, okay, how they are being trained, even the design has gone bad, they are given the product. Please keep trying till you come to the perfection. First is, at least, because if it is not perfect, people are not going to buy it. So those spending that patiently that time, then everybody has got their baggages. Even we take care of their baggages. Suppose there is health issue, they have small children, so very holistic approach is there, how their children are taken care in those Anganwadi centers, how we help these women, if they have school going children, some nutrition is there. So we try to link all our programs in such a way so that these women just feel little light and the creativity does not die down. So that is where bringing them initially, I remember, I'll share a very funny incident. We just gave something and the lady was with the ghungat and all, so we said, आप कैसे करेंगी? She said, नहीं, हम ऐसे ही करेंगे. But you can imagine that from those limitations, when you bring them to this kind of and then we even help them कि आपका सामान तो इसी कमरे में बन गया, अब आप चाहेंगे कि लोग देखें, कैसे देखेंगे? वी phone is today, everybody has it. Even if you will not have I think fan in your house, but phone is something you will have it. So that is where, you know, how we started linking it to with their interest. And now when I see the confidence over the period, believe me, at times I always pinch myself. I hope I'm not dreaming, because the way confidently they are speaking, and then we have that, we are fortunate enough that we get a lot of clients in our business clients are there. So when they come to India, we bring them to our e-heart for shopping, and they just love it. Everybody has paucity of time. Nobody has time today. Giving a check is easy, but giving your time is very difficult. So that is where again, you know, we are at a winning stage. We bring them there. When they see their stuff being appreciated, their art being appreciated, because our e-heart, wherever our display center is, from the entrance till the whole experience, from the Madhubani to, you know, whatever various kind of exposures we can give to the whosoever is coming, because for us that is our customer, and we want that customer to leave with an experience. But I'm giving the good picture, but yes, the challenges I shared, they are immense, but yes, over the period they have overcome. It is nothing that is not possible. Today they are making their own reels, their social media, you know what they want to say. So, you know, but yes, hand holding to some extent is required, but yes, they can be on their own and convert them into entrepreneurs that they can lead it themselves. But as it is, we are densely populated, so this keeps going, but sustainability has to be there. They cannot continue like this. That is what we start from the very beginning, ki artisan to customer. It is not artisan then in middlemen. We all know that. I didn't need not talk. But yes, if you ask me, decade back, I also used to wonder how things will change. But then they sin and devil in disguise. COVID also taught us a lot of things. The way we thought, how will these virtual meetings and all that. Then capacity building. We have Shilp Charcha, which is every month we hold some kind of a capacity building workshops for them. So we are trying to fill in the gaps wherever possible so that they can be on their own. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Simiji. Sumita, would you like to share your thoughts on the challenges that you have faced? You have worked closely on e-commerce and other initiatives.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, so the first thing is really the challenge that we faced. The biggest one is that, you know, how do you organize an immensely unorganized sector? Like traditionally, artisans work from their homes, whether it's the handloom weaver or the one who's doing embroidery, and they like to do that because it helps them find that balance between housework and children and farm work and everything. But we realize that if we really want to produce, handcrafted products for the 21st century customer, um, who want standardization. We make garments, so you can't have one medium different from another medium. And quality, as you mentioned, also both of you. So we have to centralize that. But we can't. How many can you get into a center? The villages are so, dispersed, especially in Rajasthan, in UP also, but especially in Rajasthan. So we also work with HCL Foundation, and we work. We have four villages, four villages where 50 women, are organized. In Rajasthan, we have about 56 village craft production centers. These are centers where in villages where the women can come or the artisans can come to one place and work. So that required quite a mindset change. Because it was in the village, they were still allowed. But it was a good change because initially women resisted, but later on they like it so much that, you know, it's a space of their own. They have advocated, lobbied with their panchayat to give them a room, to give them a place, in the village as a Shilp Kendra where they come and work. So what we have found is that if we tackle the root problem, which was so the main problem is employment, right? People need to earn incomes, and that's a very practical need that the men and women artisans, rural men and women have. But if we do it in a strategic way, you can also ensure that they have agency over what they're doing. So apart from just making the product, we involve them in what we call co-creation workshops with our designers and our buyers. We also work in the B2B space, so we have global buyers also. And so where the two can come together in a village in Rajasthan and develop some new products for the world, inspired by the Rangila Rajasthan or whatever the desert, um, the landscape there and the color there. So organizing a very unorganized space was the biggest challenge. And in that also digital has helped us. We are still on way of to develop an artisan app. Maybe we'll do that with you, Shiva. To see so that we can get real time production status. Otherwise, if something is delayed, then you need it in time for Diwali के बाद आएंगे तो कोई खरीदेंगे नहीं. So real time we need to know, okay, in this particular village how many pieces are being made every day, etc. That's the challenge on the back end, which is something we have no alternative but to handle. On the front end, again, this whole thing needs deep pockets, and that's something, since we are not a large corporate. We don't have resources, or also like an SUI or a large, you know what I'm talking about. So that's where, and we can't afford burn rate and all that. We can't afford to burn anything. So we have to be very careful about how we spend money. But that's where some amount is, needed in the investment. That's where CSR is playing a role. Yeah.
Thanks, Smitaji. Yeah. So I think, the two major points, right? So organizing supply chain itself is so hard in this sector and in many other related sectors with rural producers, and also the kind of investment required to drive these initiatives, right? That's where I think a lot of funding is actually required. Sumitji, I mean, from your side, what have been your challenges?
See, when I started working in NCI, and before that, I was handling this National Urban Livelihood Mission in Government of Goa. Before that, I was handling this local self government thing in Rajasthan. So my experience has been that the first challenge is the lack of self esteem and confidence among the women. They always feel ki somebody should come and provide them training, somebody should come and provide them raw materials, somebody should come and buy their products. So for everything, they depend on some external factor. They don't believe that they can be the drivers of that change. They can, steer the whole process of change, themselves. So that is one major challenge that we try to tackle when we started incubation center. We started by having sessions on meditation, yoga. We engaged volunteers from this Play for Peace organization to, organize some play-based activities so that they start expressing themselves. They start discussing their issues. They start feeling important. They start feeling somebody, who can, decide their own destiny. So that was the major challenge. And through incubation center, what we learned that now we have trained 1,500 women. Lots of these women have actually become women entrepreneurs. And recently, last week only, I formed this committee of women entrepreneurs so that that they can decide on their own, and they can also decide for other people. And I'm proud to say that in the lastly concluded this India Food Expo, where artisans from I think over 100 countries participated. In fact, four artisans from our incubation center who were earlier very reluctant to even step out. They set up their own stalls. Okay, and they did this with artisans coming from Australia, Russia, so many other countries like that. So that is one major challenge. Second thing is also lack of belief in their own skills. So when I went to a small village in Sonbhadra, and they make this tribal people, they make a lot of these items out of mooj and bamboo and this thing. So it took half an hour to let them realize, that is also something very rare skill. I said, no, bring those products out. And they said, why do you need that? Now we have got all the steel utensils, plastic utensils. So this is something which may not be required. So they don't realize that what they have already can be very, very valuable, and they can, develop an enterprise. I will give you another example. We have started this cooperative kitchen in our, office campus. And those ladies, they are originally from Bengal, based in Delhi. But they were very good in making food, but they used to feel ki, what is so big in that? Everybody knows how to cook food. We are doing this at our household level. But now they started this kitchen, and within 1 year, it has grown into a very dependable enterprise. We have got requests from over 5 government offices to start similar cop kitchen in their campuses. And these ladies now they are earning close to 15,000 per month. All these 10 women. So once they start believing in themselves, and once they start feeling, see this beautiful word called self-help group. Self-help means helping yourself, but generally we form self-help group to get some funding from some other person. So I've been heading this national urban livelihood mission thing in Goa, and I used to tell them that the word itself means स्वयं सहायता समूह. So it means you have to help yourself. But हमारे जो गवर्नमेंट के लोग जो जाते थे कम्युनिटी ऑर्गेनाइजर इन द कम्युनिटी, दे शुड टेल दिस पीपल आप बना लो क्योंकि आपको फंडिंग मिल जाएगा. So if you set the foundation right, you are not going to give them this thing, and then the lack of coordination. So if you see the three-tier structure, there are SGs at neighborhood level, there are VOs or area level federation at ward level, then there are cluster level federation at district level or city level. The role of the federation is to just facilitate marketing, processing, getting the right inputs and all. Production is all handled by the SHGs. But federations have not played their role. And we had a national consultation recently with the Ministry of Rural Development, and we have come out with a consensus that no, henceforth all the federations should be registered as a cooperative, and that has been done in Andhra in a big way. If you must be knowing this Sri Nidhi scheme. So that's a huge network of women federations, women SHGs. So we need to have that proper motivation, proper leadership, proper entrepreneurship development, and we need to have an exit plan. We need to tell them that no, look, you are already doing great, we'll just provide you this support. After a certain period, no, you are self dependent, you are self made, and it's time for us to look for some other area. So these 3-4 challenges, other challenges, lack of infrastructure, training and all, it can all be handled once you believe in yourself, once you believe in your own skills. So that's what I feel.
Yeah, thanks, Sumit. I think I can resonate a lot with the first point, right? I think lack of self-belief, right? And a lot of that is, I think, in a way, lack of literacy, right? I mean, it can be related to lack of awareness. So at least in our experience, I wanted to add a few points, and I can completely relate to what Simiji, Sumitaji and Sumitji has mentioned on this particular question. In our experience also, right, the biggest thing is digital literacy. I mean, how many people even today know, especially if you go to producer level, right, understand how online payments are working. Of course, it's much better than what it was 10 years ago. No doubt about it. I'm not denying that. But still, it's a long way to go. How many people are comfortable doing transactions online? How many people are aware of not to click on those links that you're getting in WhatsApp, right? I mean, now everybody's being flooded with those links, right, which come to your WhatsApp. So this kind of digital literacy, financial literacy, in certain ways, this is the kind of capacity building which is required at a massive scale to really realize the potential of e-commerce in India, right? That is the first thing. The second thing is also the infrastructure issues, the supply chain issues that Sumitaji mentioned. In our case, we've seen this firsthand. We worked in the clusters. Personally, myself and also the team members, we have stayed months together in the cluster, right? Just to understand how things work. And it's extremely difficult to organize supply chain, right, at a cluster level. So it's again, somebody has to invest in this, right? Somebody has to do this. How do you ensure quality from a cluster? How do you ensure design from a cluster? How do you ensure good quality inputs to a cluster? So a lot of this supply chain development, infrastructure development is required. E-commerce is just a window, right? Now, if you don't have all this background, then e-commerce obviously will not be very effective, right? So this background of development and making this kind of very inorganized sector, bringing in some kind of organization into it is very important. Third area where we struggled is infrastructure logistics, right? So back in the day, can you guess what we used for as logistics provider? 10 साल पहले हमने क्या use किया होगा for shipping? हमें रूरल राजस्थान से कोई पार्सल भेजना है हैदराबाद को, क्या यूज़ कर सकते हैं हम लोग? या उड़ीसा से हमें कुछ भेजना है दिल्ली को, क्या what could we use? India Post, good guess, right? The only option we had was India Post, right? और कोई option था ही नहीं 10 साल पहले, right? I mean थे like but only cities में थे. अगर आप भुवनेश्वर में हैं या आप विजयवाड़ा में हैं या आप जयपुर में हैं, you can still access a lot of professional couriers, right? But otherwise, if you're in the village, how would you access a professional courier? Nobody's going to come and pick up. So we started with India Post. So India Post में क्या होता है, बुक कर दीजिए, उसके बाद क्या होता है, आपको कुछ पता चलता है क्या है, कहाँ पे आपका पार्सल. 10 साल पहले की बात कर रहा हूँ मैं. तो उसके बाद you book your parcel and then you pray, right, that the parcel will reach the customer, right? Obviously India Post was very good, and it's very good, right? I don't have anything against India Post. It's a great service, but of course the technology was not so easy, right, to track parcels and all that. But now I think things have changed, but still a long way to go, right, in terms of rural logistics. And logistics is also very expensive. आप में से पता नहीं किसी ने ट्राई किया है कुछ बेचने के लिए? I mean, have you couriered something yourself recently? It's expensive. I mean, now after COVID, I think the logistics charges are so expensive, right? If a product is 1,000 rupees and you have to pay around 150 to 200 rupees to do shipping, तो आपका मार्जिन कितना बचेगा उसमें? You're spending almost 15-20% just on logistics. उसके बाद मैं पैकिंग और हैंडलिंग की बात ही नहीं कर रहा हूँ मैं. पैकेजिंग के लिए आपको पैसा लगेगा एटलीस्ट 40-50 रुपीज़, आपका पैकेजिंग का ही हो जाएगा मटेरियल. देन आपका हैंडलिंग भी, somebody is actually handling that, right? That is also a cost. So it's so expensive now, logistics. It's though scale has increased, but the logistics costs are still high. So these are some of the challenges we see. And I think a lot of support is required to make e-commerce work, especially for rural producers. That's what I want to say. Now, with that understanding, right, that this support is required, we know these are the challenges, right, that the sector is having. We also know that there is so much potential. हम लोग we can connect millions of producers to markets through e-commerce. जो physically connect करने के लिए हमें बहुत साल लग जाएगा, हम लोग digitally उसको बहुत accelerate कर सकते हैं. So what can we do to make this happen? Now, what is it that CSR can play a role? So let me talk to Simiji because she's from HCL. They have been playing a big role. So what do you think, Simiji, should be done to make this happen?
As I think I have already answered, thing is that one is initially give them that environment, because if they will not have that environment, they will not survive. As rightly shared by you, Siva, that even now digitally, they might click the button here it and they might do something, but bringing them to that kind of a learning that how your transaction happens, financial literacy, negotiation skills, so many skills are shared. As Sumita ji was sharing about her experience, those 50 cohorts of that, how they are. But at the back end work, how much HCL has worked in those areas to bring them to those centers, that is not even imagined, because these Hardoi, if I name it, it's a very backward village where you have all that that moves and where they are making those baskets, but somebody telling them what kind of designs, what is the demand in the market, what will sell, not with their own regular pattern, and they are into their pattern and they don't want to come out of it. It is very difficult to have that back end changes. And when you start showing them little light, when they start getting that money every month, or whatever the time, that motivation starts happening, then they want to do more, they get organized, how I need to finish my morning household chores, what time I need to be in the center. So all these things also, these things are not talked about because we think these are very small things, but these are very important things. If you are not able to reach in time, you are not able to if this order is for masses, how will you reach your target? So all these things, and digitally letting everybody know that this is how you do it. It is not that once you taught and you left them. It is again consistently you have to keep doing, so that they become the change makers and they are able to attract others, and this is how the ripple effect will go. So that is what I think.
That's a great point, Simiji. Sumita ji, what are your thoughts? What needs to be done?
What needs to be done specifically in this particular on this particular topic? I think it needs action at all levels. As I mentioned earlier, starting from the mindset on the ground also. because no longer are you supplying to a market which is in your village heart, but it is to a global customer. So to understand what that global customer wants, to understand that, so to be sensitive to that, we are, and opposite also for the customers or buyers to be very sensitive to where it's coming from and the fact that we live in an interconnected world. And but the good part is that in Indian crafts, handlooms and handicrafts, it is one of the greenest industries. We are hardly using any coal power. I mean, okay, we use some power for lighting and all that, but whether it's handloom, hand embroidery, it's all done by hand. It's powered by people, and therefore the value of that should be understood by the. And it's changing. People are understanding. Many customers, especially in the West, in Europe and in US also, and in India also, gradually it's happening. Maybe taking a bit longer because they say na ghar ki murgi dal barabar. So we don't appreciate that chicken curry as much as we should because it's available there. So yeah, I think from both sides, just be a bit more sensitive and aware of each other.
Great. Thanks, Sumitaji. Sumitji, I mean, what are your thoughts?
I'll just talk about three things that we are already doing in this regard. One is you talked about digital literacy. So we have partnered with one organization called ISRA, Institute of Social Responsibility and Accountability. They have developed one application wherein if you put all your personal details, name, age, caste, religion, income level, and everything, you click, and then you get to know what are the government schemes, social welfare schemes, both from central government and state government side, which are applicable specifically to you. So that has been a path-breaking exercise. The initiative has helped in providing the benefits of government schemes to over 1 million people now. And the portal also tells you what are the ways to update your ID documents. It tells you whether your ID document, Aadhaar, PAN, and all it's updated or not. Or it also tells you about the legal compliances. It also tells you about key for accessing a certain scheme. What are the documents required? And it is available in all languages and it's completely free of cost. It can be downloaded free of cost and it can be used. So that has empowered our women, at large, and they are able to use this portal to, make their own learning driving license, to make their own food license, to go get enrolled in Aadhaar card, this thing, also Ayushman card. So it has been a game changing exercise, and that also helps to, establish a lot of network to build this enterprise. Second thing that we have done, we have collaborated with German Development Corporation, GIG India, and we have established one PMU, Project Management Unit at NCOI, and we have selected some 16 states, 30 locations, including Rajasthan, where we are going to work with selected cooperatives, selected NGOs, selected federations, and we are going to create regional models of development. So to just see that what works well in, for example, Marwar, Rajasthan, what works well in Himalayas, what works well in coastal region, just to create some 30 models of cooperative development. That's our plan. And third thing is this NCI Heart e-commerce portal, through which we are trying to address a lot of these challenges. You talked about so many challenges 10 years back. We are still, working on those challenges. How to take good product photos, how to upload it on this thing, how to write a good product description. And these days, in the age of social media, stories sell first. So if your story goes viral, your product, everybody is asking for, where to get this from. So we are working on all of this, and very soon we want to integrate all the services. For example, if you want to access certain services as a citizen, as a cooperative, as an enterprise, all the three will be available on one portal. And we are trying to, come out with something called Sahakar Setu portal. So that's something which will connect everyone, any enterprise, any self-employed person, any citizen can access all the services which are required for auditing, for income tax, for insurance. But that will take some time, 3 years. But the idea is to onboard at least 1 lakh cooperatives before we start doing that. So that's our plan. That's what I feel should be done to create an ecosystem and an enabling environment, for proper e-commerce business. Thank you.
Great, Sumitji. So let me just quickly summarize that and then we'll open up for questions, right? So I think what HCL has done such groundbreaking work in this space, right, with their eHaat. And I think as Simiji mentioned, what is required is, not just training people once, but It's you got to create change makers, right? You got to create leaders at the local level who can take this change, because e-commerce is like a change. It's like a revolution, right? It's a different way of doing business. Now there are challenges, so whenever there are challenges, that change becomes even more difficult. It's easy to give up. So that kind of a change making, capacity building initiatives are required, and that is a great area to invest, whether it is CSR, whether it is government or any other organization which wants to bring in change. A lot of focus on digital enablement and creating those leaders on the ground, I think, can be a catalyst to e-commerce. And as Sumita ji mentioned, the infrastructure, whether it is, at all levels, right? It's, if you're trying to talk about not selling in local markets, but you're trying to reach to national and global markets, right? Whether it's the product, whether it is the platform, whether it is the marketing that we are doing, how you take pictures, everything matters. Now, in today's day and age, if you do a picture which doesn't even have, like, it is all having shadows, it is having all crumpled product, right? Will anybody buy? I mean, that's what you see in a lot of government websites. There is zero sales, right? It's creating the website is easy. Selling is difficult, right? It requires a certain maturity and discipline, a certain professionalism to make, again, sales happen. So at all levels, we need to bring in that kind of professionalism to make e-commerce work. It's not difficult, but it does require some professionalism, right? It's not like everybody can build a house. You have to go to a contractor to get a house built. You can also build it. Good luck, right? So it's like that, right? I mean, getting that professionalism is important. And as Sumit mentioned, I think it's a community effort finally, right? All of us have to collaborate. It's not a one person, nobody's trying to compete with each other, right? What Rangsutra is doing is so different from what Sumit is doing or what HCL Technology is doing, but there are also common threads which are connecting all of us together. So a lot of collaboration and cooperative effort is required in making this happen, right? Because we are not Flipkarts, we are not Amazons. Does anybody have $1 billion funding in this room? I don't think so, right? None of us have. So I think with the kind of limited resources that we have, I think the best way for us to solve this problem is through cooperation. Not only on collaborating, but thinking through a platform also, right? Rather than having hundreds of platforms, how do you build a community-based platform? How do you collaborate at a platform level rather than we all reinventing the wheel, right? So at a technology level, at a platform level, at capacity building level, I think a lot of collaboration and cooperation can be done. And that is what we think can be funded, can be supported by CSR, can be supported by the government, and can potentially also be supported by many multilateral agencies, right, that we work with. So great. That's maybe at least from my perspective, a good way to summarize the findings suggested by the eminent panelists here. But would love to open up for questions. We could probably take 3 or 4 questions before we break for lunch. Yeah, maybe the second bench, maybe, or first, and then the first bench. Yeah.
Hello. Yeah, so thank you so much for the insightful panel. Just one query I have, let's say, like all of you represent like different segments of the market, but catering to a largely like a specific kind of audience that has a premium taste and that kind of component, like who are more aligned towards handmade products. But when we talk about connecting the dots in terms of like what is the major lack that the sector is facing is the market linkages component, the distribution component of it. But when we talk about scaling this to a larger impact, how do you suggest that this can be achieved in terms of, let's say, for example, the larger population dividend or the Gen Z that we talk about are really influenced by the consumption pattern that has been provided by brands like Zudio or that kind of very cheap fashion. So when we offer premium products that are more sustainable and like handmade, so what are your feedbacks in terms of consumer consumption and how we can work together in that direction to compete to that?
So you're right. I mean, Gen Z is really looking more at fast, quick, cheap fashion. But the good news is that, what they are also realizing, we all are, including them, is that that fast, cheap comes with a cost which their generation and the next generation are going to pay. We are getting it cheap because the actual cost of harm to the environment is not put in there. So people are definitely, I think, becoming aware of this. And again, it's, I think, ultimately what attracts them is the brand. I think they're very, everyone is very, they wouldn't mind paying, 3 times the price for a pair of fancy sneakers, but will not want to spend so much for. So I think that's a double thing there, but it is hopeful. Awareness
Yeah, I just wanted to add this only. Now you have seen the shift is happening because we never used to talk about during now we call it sustainable development goals, but during the millennium nobody used to talk about sustainability, environment, and now that shift is happening. People are looking at products because awareness is increasing that climate change is happening. So people are little cautious and scared also. If this kind of a consumerism, use and throw, how long? Because the resources are coming from the planet only. How long we will keep doing this kind of a pattern has to be broken. It is not only with them. We talk about their behavioral. Consumers' behavior also needs to shift. So that's all I would like to add to Sumita's. Would you like to?
I think it has been said well. I'll just add that imperfection has its own beauty. When you buy from Fab India और आपको कोई एक दो धागे निकले दिखते हैं, तो then you feel good about that. Okay, so now people have slowly understood that, as Sumita ji was saying, that no, we should not put so much of burden and so much of ecological footprint that is going with every product. So people are looking for handmade products. If 10 products are not the same, that also people have started realizing it's handmade, so it's okay.
Hi. So this is Joseph from Handinan, India. Sumit ji, you mentioned about one digital literacy app. I would like to understand the exact name of the app or portal. I couldn't remember that. And also, how many users of utilizing that app so far? Yeah.
So it's called ISRA India, ISRA, and then India. So that is the app that you can download from Google Play Store. And as of now, I think 1 million people have already benefited. And we have reached out to over 2.5 million people as of now. And just to tell you one example, Tata AIG funded this NGO to make a Ayushman card for the beneficiaries in Mathura district. They set up a kiosk right in the government hospital, and 10,000 people who were admitted or who were going to admit it, they made their Ayushman card, and it led to a saving of any amount which is more than 100 crores in the 6 months, because everybody, if you have a bill of 1 lakh, 2 lakh, it was all waived off just because you have an Aadhaar card, Ayushman card, right? With you. So a lot of these legal compliances, a lot of these questions about cyber security, what Simi ji was saying, downloading some link, clicking on some link and all, it is all being addressed through this app. And it is a very holistic, decentralized model. You have seen CSC, but CSC में it's like an office. You have to go there, stand in a queue, फिर वो बोलेंगे नहीं reject हो गया. But here we see कि क्यों reject हो गया. Because if you are a citizen of India and if you fall in that criteria, you must get the benefit. So we work with them. And now GIZ India has funded this agency, and they are now implementing agency for NCI to implement the project that I talked about.
Okay. Thanks.
Great. Okay, great. I think because we have to break for lunch, we don't want to keep you away from lunch. Let me just share some quick closing remarks. So firstly, thanks to all the eminent panelists for sharing their thoughts. I think a big round of applause to the panelists. And just secondly, what I want to say is, e-commerce is a different way of doing retail, right? It's going to be here, it's going to be there forever, so it's not going away anywhere. There are challenges in it, but there are also immense opportunities that e-commerce brings with itself, right? What is required is to put some sustained effort in making e-commerce possible. So we have seen tremendous change in the groups that we work with. groups that were not at all recognized before. Nobody knew that a cooperative existed here or a group existed there. Through the virtue of e-commerce, thanks to e-commerce, today there's so much awareness of those groups. And not only in India, but customers outside India know these groups and they want to buy from those groups. That is the kind of effect that e-commerce can create. And definitely market linkages, there are different ways to connect producer groups with markets, but e-commerce can be a big factor, can play a big role in connecting these groups to markets. So with that, let me take leave from all of you. Thanks for this opportunity to access India. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Yes, Shiva.
There are stalls outside. You can see I could not talk about everything. Zing and Zest is also there, which are cookies made by, again, our self-help groups. Please try them, buy from them, encourage them. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Yes, Shiva, there will be challenges, but I'm sure as long as leaders like you and all of you are there, we'll overcome all the challenges. With that, thanks a lot again to all of you. Each of you has and your organizations have been leading in this field. So another big round of applause for all of them. I would request front and center for a picture, and I request my team to hand over the token of appreciation. Yes. Thank you so much. We'll break for lunch. We are running a little late, so I request everyone to reassemble 150 in this hall. Thank you so much.